Datasets are the basis of most of the drag-drop designer tools in Visual Studio. The dataset acts like an in-memory, disconnected representation of a database. As you can imagine, creating a dataset by hand is a tedious process. Fortunately for us, Visual Studio contains a tool for generating datasets. These types of datasets are known as strongly typed datasets in some circles. The benefit of using the tool is that it quickly creates all of the dataset parts. The benefit of having a strongly typed dataset is that all the columns are correctly named and typed. So a column in the database that contains a double value will have a column in the dataset of type double. I'm inside Visual Studio, and I've opened a solution called Creating Datasets, which contains one project. This project contains a Windows form with 3 buttons and a list box. I'm going to ask Visual Studio to create a typed dataset for me by going to my project and adding a database. I'm going to choose to add an existing item. And then I'm going to go to my desktop, open my exercise file folder, and scroll down to the Assets section. You need to be sure that your filter inside this dialog is set to all files so that you can see the database file. This is the database file I'm looking for, northwind.mdf. I'm going to click on Add. Now, Visual Studio recognizes that it can generate a dataset from this database. So it asks me, would I like to create a dataset or an entity data model? I'm going to create the simpler of the two, which is the dataset. And then I'm going to click on Next. It just went out and talked to that database and has retrieved a list of all of the resources that are available in that database. Here's a listing of the tables. Within the tables, I can see things like the different column names. There's also a section that shows the stored procedures inside that database. I'm just going to take a couple of tables from the database. I'm going to take the products table and the shippers table. And I'm going to leave the dataset name the same. Next, I'm going to click on Finish. Now, inside my app.config file, that wizard generated this connection string. I can then use this connection string to connect to the database. In fact, all I need to do is talk to the dataset, and it automatically will connect and talk to the database. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to go to this Fill Dataset button and double-click on it. I'm going to declare an instance of the products table by typing var products, the name of my dataset, which was Northwind dataset, dot products data table. This is the line of code where I'm going to create the table adapter. And as you can see, there is a products table adapter and a shippers table adapter. I'm working with the products, and I'm going to choose this one here. The table adapter's job is to talk to the database. This is where it does the select queries, the delete queries, the update queries, and the insert queries. So next, I'm going to ask the table adapter to fill the products table. So I say ta.fill, and then I pass in the table that I want to fill, which in my case would be that instance of the products class. And then I'll tell my list box to use the product name when it's showing the data. And then lastly, I need to make sure that I fill my list box. My list box is called listbox1. Choose data source equal, and then I'm going to assign the products table. Oh, I see. I forgot to put a set of parentheses after this new line. It's nice to have IntelliSense. I'll press F5 to run the application and Y to dismiss that dialog. And I'll click on the Fill Dataset. And I'm now using that strongly typed dataset. You can see down here in this example, I can also use the strongly typed access. the product has a unit price property on it, which I can use to set or retrieve the unit price of a particular product. What I'd rather show you for the rest of the demo is how to create my own extra query against the database. So I'm going to open this XSD file that was created for me when I generated the dataset. This contains a designer surface for making changes to my dataset. I'll double click on this file, and here you can see the products table and the shippers table, and then at the bottom you see the products table adapter. Remember, this is what gets the data out of the database and puts it into the products table and takes the changes of the data and puts it back into the data source. So I'm going to come down here on the bottom and I'm going to add a new query. I'd like to choose SQL statements, a select query. It's already stubbed in the code for a basic query. And I'm just going to come down here and say where unit price is greater than some parameter value at price. So now this is a parameterized query. I'll pass this piece of information in and it'll return all the products that are greater than this price. I'll click on next. I'm going to call my method that's going to be on my table adapter, get data by price. And I'll click on next and finish. Notice there's a new row here now. There's a get data by price. So now I'll go back to my form and I'll go to this fill products by price. And I just need to write 2 lines of code. var ta equal new I need that same table adapter. And now that table adapter has my new query on it. So I'm going to say listbox data source equal ta get data by price. And watch what happens when I hit the open parenthesis. Over here it says I need a price parameter to give to the query. So I'm going to use 40 M for decimal. And then I need to uncomment this line of code and this line of code. Here's a little trick. I'm going to highlight all 4 lines and then do Control K, Control U. Press F5 to run the application. Choose to save the data. And there are all the products that are greater than $40. Now you have the general idea how to create a data set. You still need to write code to work with the data, however. Watch the binding movie in this chapter to see how to use the drag and drop designer to quickly set up data bindings in your user interface.